So basically, I'm up here because, as we've all said, performance marketing is kind of at a crossroads. There is a lot going on in terms of what we're looking for. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah? All right. I'm going to stand back then because I feel a little too close to this podium. There's a lot going on. We have multiple marketing teams within one company. That's one of the struggles that I deal with GE. I'm in direct-to-consumer. We have a brand team. I have a national team. I have product managers. I have brand managers that are only for that particular product and that particular brand, because underneath GE, we also have profile. We have cafe. We have monogram. We have so much that it is very, very detailed, very segmented. It's a very large tree. We all have our own KPIs, and then when you want to go ahead and further complicate it, I'm trying to get sales on direct-to-consumer. The Amazon team's trying to get that same product sold on Amazon, and then we have our retailer partners who are also trying to drive everybody into Best Buy and, you know, the Lowe's and the Home Depots and all of those of the world. We all want the same thing, though. We want to sell this one toaster, this one washer. So are we a team, or are we being put against each other? It's kind of the way it feels. When you look at this and roll it all up, really the way that I've had to take it back is it doesn't matter where the money comes from as long as it's all going into the same pocket, which is GE's, because that's the way ultimately our people see it. So when we are looking at trying to unite the teams, this is kind of what we're really dealing with in that core challenge. So I really want to dive into why does it matter that all of these teams are segmented? What are some of the industry insights, because I'm a data geek? And then what are we doing at GE to try to really battle these things? And I know that just from conversation, you brand people get me here, and you agency people also get me. So with that, AI, that's really kind of, I think, why it matters. It's becoming smarter. It is changing the way we access our campaigns. Gone are the days where in paid search I can be given a list of keywords or a list of audiences and easily negate them. I can tell Performance Max to do that. Does that work all the time? I don't know. Google's going to Google. So it's hard when I've got a brand manager coming at me saying, why did this ad show up here? And I'm like, well, that's not mine. That's an organic Google ad with, Google playing with AI. So I'm going to kick you over to SEO. And then, SEO's like, oh, no, that's because of the feed. And so then we kind of get into this back and forth internally over why is this showing up that particular way. Automation's great. I don't have to do nearly as much. I don't have to think of every single misspelling that somebody could come up with for the word, dryer or dishwasher or whatever. It's great, but it's also hard because when I'm trying to explain these, challenges to, my team, my product managers, finance, they're not in the nitty-gritty. They're not in that technical piece. They don't understand when I'm trying to say, well, the display campaign was set up to target this kind of audience, and we didn't know that we needed to exclude that because you didn't tell us. So it's really hard when we're trying to communicate with all of the different nuances that we have with that internally. And trying to educate. I think education was the big word today, right? So what we're really wanting to do is align our internal teams, make this new technology that we're setting up work for everybody, and then go ahead and educate so that people can feel like they understand what's going on, because I think that that's the biggest piece right now that is causing internal failure from what I've seen. Industry insights. So basically, eMarketer and Acoustics did a survey that I really liked about what is happening with marketing and what are the biggest challenges in AI. The 4 biggest challenges or obstacles are right there on the screen: disconnected data, organizational silos, vague performance metrics, and unclear AI strategies. Those were huge. Insight 1 really is, I think, where we can see how all of this is feeding into these obstacles with the web analytics. If you're thinking about the way most marketers look at things. And if I'm thinking of just my D2C channel, I'm looking at all of my web metrics, all of my web pieces. I'm not really looking at my retail information. I'm not looking at that offline data. I don't know, if somebody discovered this new product that we launched in store and then went online and, was researching it so that they could find the best price. They checked Rakuten, all of this stuff. Because if I'm looking just at my web data, they performed a Google search first. They found that product. That's how they discovered me. And then if I'm looking at last purchase, they used Rakuten, so Rakuten got all of the credit. That affiliate marketing had, 100%. We look at these, walled gardens, and we're not getting a full picture, which I think bleeds down then into the segmentation. So if we're using audience segmentation to drive action, and I see, oh wow, Rakuten or my affiliate marketing is really driving a strong conversion, search is really where people are picking up the stuff, but I didn't know that they went to that in-store retail piece, and I'm only segmenting my people to, my audiences and my campaigns to prioritize Rakuten shoppers specifically who, use search. How big of a market am I missing out with that impact that the in-store people are going to be making? Am I missing out on an opportunity to maybe have done some out-of-home marketing and reach that individual who didn't know about us in the store or something along those lines? It really does limit us because we're only as good as our data. I think a good story internally that I have from this is one of my brand managers. She's very intelligent, runs tons of surveys, tons of tests. She was constantly telling us that the banner color for this product was the main seller, that's what people were interested, that's what her audience wanted all the time. So much so that I couldn't even put in other colors into the creative because she was like, no, this is exactly what the audience wants. We've surveyed them, we have all of the data. But when I looked at my segment, I was seeing that people were searching for other colors. They wanted black. The stainless steel was actually selling even higher, like that traditional stainless steel. People were purchasing that. So if I had just listened to her and ignored my data, as so many people internally do when you're getting that internal pressure, we would have been missing out on this huge segment. If I had not listened to her and just ignored her, which also happens, and only went through mine, I could have been missing out on that offline data segment that she was getting from all of these surveys and from all of these people where maybe our primary color is it's that red dress. It's the sparkly red shoes that maybe you don't buy, but when you're walking by the store, you're like, maybe there's something cute in here. I should go in. And even though you buy sneakers, it was the red shoes that brought you in. So I think that over-segmentation and only looking at select pieces also affects that. The last piece is, of course, the silos, which is what I just talked about. So we already touched on a bit of this, but everybody knows AI adoption is on the rise. We're being told internally, use more AI, use more AI. We're being forced by Google to use more AI. SEMrush is even rolling out with AI-generated creative. It's everywhere, but yet we don't have a lot of metrics that tell us how is AI doing well. Is it better efficiency? Is it, a better ROI? Why did it have a better ROI? What is the underneath piece of it? And I think this is a part that is dangerous because we are building the plane as we're flying. We're trying to learn this AI. We're trying to step on the gas. We're trying to go so fast that nobody really has a chance to stop and think about how these pieces of AI and how the segmentation is affecting all of these other areas on the other side of the fence. It's kind of that piece where if you just keep throwing the trash over the fence, you don't see it, but it's building up somewhere and it's eventually going to come over. So rather than staying in your segmented space whenever you're dealing, internally, I think that the piece that really is an opportunity is for you to empower your other, teams to understand where can we lean in together. Where can we stop and redevelop these practices that have been going on and say, hey, because of the AI, let's change the way things have been done. So I'm going to go back here. This is the meat of it, where I've been trying to get. Basically for GE, what we did is we took a opportunity that we had. There was a product, a small appliance, that was rolling out a new model. So it wasn't a huge change. It was just a small change, but it was rolling out a new model, big to us. We really wanted to make sure that the team was, or that the product was able to get visibility, that people knew why it was changing, all of this stuff. We had a very set budget, but a very aggressive growth target. Of course, for us, the bottom line was ROI, as it always is, but yet we were being told we needed to build awareness as well for this new product. So what the team did as a whole is we decided to come together with our money. So each person took their bucket of money. We all dumped it in together, and we said, okay, we have this pool of money. We all have these different departments. How can we make this money go as far as possible? It wasn't a matter of, oh, you have 10% for testing, you have this. It was just, this is what it is, figure it out. So what we had to do is basically take all of our people together, decide what the KPI was going to be. We were told it was ROI. Okay, fine. ROI is our KPI. If we are all putting this money together, then let's leverage that and make it so that it's a roll-up ROI. Now, this is something that for you brands, you'll have to clear with leadership or whatever, but since we were using one set of money, as long as we took each piece that we were spending in each department, so X amount to Amazon, X amount to our retailers, X amount to the brand to build that awareness, X amount to search and that lower funnel piece, if it was all rolling up, and when we took our full revenue to a total ROI that was what we were looking for, we asked management, does that make it okay? And we were told, yeah, bottom line, if you're making us more money out of this pile of money that we're giving you, thumbs up from us. So we said, okay, we got the blessing from that. So then what we had to do is we had to take all of these different departments, put them all on a meeting together, which was painful, and divide them up into the cooks in the kitchen. We set up a pre-launch team, during the campaign team, and then a post-launch team. And what this allowed was everybody felt invested. Everybody was like, oh, wow, I've got a part. Yeah, I'm not in every single meeting. If I don't need to be in every single meeting, let's give that time back on the calendar. But I helped set it up. I was in there when we were building out these dashboards. I was in there during the campaign, pulling the levers. I was in there when we were reporting at the end. So by giving everybody a stake, they felt involved, they felt engaged, but they weren't necessarily there the whole time. And this, I think, really got that buy-in with the interdepartments. The other piece that we did is we developed a common language. One of the hiccups that we had was when you're looking at an ad, we said we will only want to count the money for this specific product because the money was coming from the product team for this specific product. It wasn't a whole brand effort. Yes, GE wanted more money, but we only wanted to count the money that was to this product. So that was something that we had to clarify amongst everybody, because if we took a pool of revenue, it happened when we were first starting to reporting, we were like, ooh, Amazon, that's a really high profit for this small appliance that, has only been running for a week. It turned out they were counting all of the revenue from those ads, and that's not what we needed. So clarifying, being hyper specific was painful, but it made us all on the same page, and it forced us to have a common language. And then we had to set aside our egos and our vanity metrics, which was painful as well. For engagement, for our upper funnel, there was none of the, oh, well, the click-through rate was this and that. If it did not feed into or answer the question, how did this affect or how did this impact the ROI that we were looking for, It did not make it on the dashboard. So that kept the dashboard very small, very succinct, and very focused. We also didn't bring in new tools. This was a test. We didn't want to, oh, well, we're going to have to buy this new dashboard and this new tool and do this, or you're going to have to stop and learn this new, this new tool to measure so that we can do it. Our measurement tool, our dashboard, was a simple Excel spreadsheet. Everybody knows how to use Excel. Everybody could read it. Everybody just put in their information based on the metrics that we had set up. It was just KISS. Keep it simple. I mean, that's all we did. It was it sounds to me like very basic, but it was, easy say, hard to do. So once we were able to do that, we really saw results. This is the blueprint. So there you go. If you're looking for a blueprint as to how to break down silos, that's it. Align your teams, make your data compelling, talk about it, make these internal systems share, and just, we met weekly. It was weekly for the course of a month. It was only a month-long flight. It was not very long. We were told, oh, you should have a longer flight. But it was enough for us to be able to set this blueprint, and we've taken this blueprint now and we have applied it to actually 3 other experiments that are running, because the success that came out of this was a 4x ROAS on that small product that we over-exceeded what the goal was. We were able to work together, happily work together, which is shocking, to where we want to work together more, which is even more shocking. And we were able to see I believe it was a 200% lift on Amazon, 300% lift on our direct-to-consumer site, and I'm pausing on my numbers, but an overall lift on our retail sales, and not just for that product, but when we zoomed it out in our final report, because, of course we had a final report and we zoomed it out, we're like, okay, product-wise, this is what we did, yay. But revenue-wise, it was stellar. If we took it out to revenue-wise, it was over an 8-time ROI. So it was double when we zoomed out, which is great because we stayed hyper-focused the course of that project. And then when we were able to report to our individual teams, I built out a report up to my leadership. Amazon built out a report up to their leadership because they wanted more details. Then we got to pull out our egos. Then we got to celebrate each other. And that's where it's been really fun, because I was like, actually, I had a really great time working with the brand team, and they were able to, help us and give us these insights and pass along this information that I normally don't get to see, just being, in the D2C side. So it's been great to hear in leadership meetings and have leadership come back to me and say, oh, well, the leader of the product team said that you did a great job, and they really loved working with you, and they're excited because we've got this other product coming out. And they say those in the leadership meetings, and then it trickles back down to us, and it is just turning into something that is really gaining momentum in GE. And I know I've went really very quickly through this. It was complicated. It took a long time, so trying to boil it down into, 20 minutes has not been easy. But, I'm happy to go into detail about it if you all want more later on. But that's it. Right on time.
Tabitha, thank you so much. I am constantly looking for ways to better enjoy working with my coworkers. So John Whitfield, you did take notes during that, correct? Right? Good? Excellent. We have time for a couple questions for it. Oh, you guys make it really easy.
Hello, great presentation, Tabitha. Melissa, USIM. A lot of times brands and vendors are getting boiled down briefs that are over genericizing the KPIs, objectives, and that institutional knowledge that you just shared across departments is invaluable. How do you make sure that when brands are working with their partners, that information across paid, owned, and earned is shared, as well as the KPIs that you need for your stakeholders? Because a lot of times it's either the emotional KPIs that you need to make that convincing to you, but we don't see the bigger picture that ladders up.
Yeah, and some of it is, is difficult because I know I have an outside partner, I have an agency, and I know that they get frustrated sometimes too because I give them, our ROI. So I think it's just building that good relationship with your client, saying, okay, I understand that, your KPI is, is ROAS. We're looking at ROAS right now. Is that the overall campaign goal? Like if you were, laddering it up to, your leadership, just asking them, like if you were laddering it up to your leadership, are they going to be looking at this ROAS? Are they going to be actually wanting an ROI? Because that's a big difference. Like my agency and that was one of the first things that I had to level set is I was like, I know you guys are using ROAS. I look at ROI. So I can't give you like our ROI metrics because, that's like it's our secret sauce, whatever. So I've had to communicate that with them on just openly and honestly, like I can't tell you exactly that story. I can't give you that half, but I can give you this half. And if there are details that come down that I can share with you, I do share. So I think it makes it easier because I've been on the agency side. So I like feel, I think at heart, I'm just like an agency girly. I love it. But it helps with communication. So that's really my only piece of advice is just saying, okay, you're giving me, you want awareness. That's the thing I think that we mostly get is you want to build awareness, which is good. We'll work on building awareness, but are you being held internally? And ask them, like, are you being held to a ROAS or a revenue standard where if we only give you like engagement metrics, is that going to be considered a failure? By your leadership. And if they're like, oh, well, yeah, I do need to build awareness. For me, it's been a balance. Like if I'm told we want to, like for that product, we want to build awareness, but we also have an ROI metric, I usually just kind of play with whatever, channels I am to make sure that they're able to meet the ROAS and their forecast that I need, but I'm also keeping a percentage, a small enough percentage to where there should be some sort of awareness piece in it so that they can at least give a morsel to their leadership if that's what they're being asked to do is build awareness and ROAS. So just the primary piece of it has been really difficult. Like one is primary. There aren't two primaries. So, just continue to stress that.
But there can be co-primaries, right?
There can be a 1A, 1B, but 1A is A and 1. It's 1.
We have only have time for one more question.
Sorry.
I know we had a couple up there. I'm so sorry, guys.
Hi, Brett Gieser from Blue Wheel Media. Thank you for sharing the really interesting case study. I have a question about how do you set new internal expectations based off the success you had with this current product launch?
Patience. Lots of patience, lots of education, lots of repeating. I really do think education is the piece that is missing. And it's weird because I've been around so many client-side marketing teams and even agencies, we see it too, where nobody wants to show anybody behind the curtain. It's all the Oz stuff. It's like, oh no, pay attention to the great and powerful, paid media. It's just a matter of pulling out the curtain and saying, look, this is what I'm dealing with. Look, you see this little hamster running in the wheel. That's how we're running. I just try to let people to let our internal teams know if they are asking, that's because they're curious. They want to know something. That doesn't mean you have to sit them down and give them a 101, but at least give them a little piece where if they get asked a question by their leadership, they can feed it up to their leadership and are excited about that. Just help take off some of the mysticism behind it. That's really, I think, a big piece. Give something that they can talk about confidently and they can be excited about and that they can talk about how it relates to them. My finance guy, when we were working on trying to come out with an ROI that worked for everybody, he kept talking to me about the fact that I was using a different metric for video versus my paid search. And he was like, why are you using a CPC for this and then like a cost per view for this. He didn't know that like those are different. I'm not going to pay for every click that I get from the video. I'm going to pay for everybody that actually views it. He had no idea. But I explained that to him. I sat down, I explained to him, what cost per view, cost per million view, whatever, versus a CPC, how we have to pay for those. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that. And just knowing that piece allowed him to take that back and talk to his leadership about it. He shared a new detail. He impressed everybody. Help them look good in front of their bosses.
Tabitha, thank you so much for rounding us out this morning.